As the world's attention is still largely focused on the brutal war being waged in Gaza that's already claimed the lives of tens of thousands of people, something else is happening nearby to the south in the Red Sea that has the potential to escalate the war between Israel and Hamas into a greater Middle East-wide conflict that's already severely affecting the entire global economy. After Israel initiated its full-scale invasion of Gaza, the Houthis, a Shia Muslim military organization in Yemen that's funded and armed by Iran, declared their full, unwavering support for Hamas and the Palestinian cause against Israel. However, since the Houthis are geographically located about 1,600 kilometers away from Israeli territory and more than 1,800 kilometers away from the main fight going on in Gaza, the Houthis were incapable of participating in the war happening around Gaza directly. Therefore, they decided to begin intervening on the side of Hamas more indirectly. In November of 2023, the Houthis declared that they would begin attacking every single ship they could find sailing nearby to their territory in the Red Sea that was linked in any way to Israel, including any ships traveling to or from Israeli ports, any ship with Israeli ownership, any ship flying an Israeli flag, or any ship with an Israeli crew. And then they further stated that these attacks on Israeli shipping would continue indefinitely until Israel fully withdrew from Gaza and ended its war against Hamas. The Houthis' attacks have caused major shipping companies to suspend operations through the Red Sea and Suez Canal, escalating costs and delays in global shipping. The U.S. has formed an international military coalition called Operation Prosperity Guardian, aiming to defend merchant ships in the Red Sea from Houthi attacks. The conflict in Yemen involving the Houthi rebels is incredibly complex and devastating. It pits the Houthis against the internationally recognized government led by President Abdrabbuh Mansour Hadi. However, the involvement of regional powers like Saudi Arabia and Iran adds layers of complexity. The conflict has spilled beyond Yemen's borders, with the Houthis increasingly targeting maritime infrastructure, which poses a serious threat to regional and international security. The conflict originated from the Arab Spring in 2011, leading to President Ali Abdullah Saleh stepping down and creating a power vacuum. The Houthis capitalized on this instability due to perceived marginalization of their community in the north, seizing control of the capital Sana'a by 2014. Operating with weapons and intelligence provided by Iran, the Houthi organization is seen as the most dangerous piracy force in modern history, disrupting critical global trade routes. In response, a coalition led by Saudi Arabia and supported by the United States intervened in 2015 to restore Hadi's government. However, this intervention has resulted in a prolonged conflict marked by civilian casualties and humanitarian suffering, further complicated by the presence of jihadist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS in Yemen. The core of the conflict lies in the proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran, with Yemen serving as a battleground for the regional rivalry. Saudi Arabia views the Houthis as an Iranian proxy threatening its southern border, while Iran sees Yemen as a means to expand its influence in the Middle East. This geopolitical rivalry has hindered diplomatic resolutions to the conflict. One alarming aspect is the Houthis' targeting of maritime infrastructure, including commercial ships and key ports. Since early December, Houthi rebels have disrupted global maritime trade by attacking vessels in one of the most strategic ocean waterways, impacting some of the world's largest shipping companies. In response, an international task force led by the U.S. Navy has been formed to protect shipping in the region. However, various global powers have resisted engaging due to potentially escalating the conflict and economic implications. The Houthi insurgency has significantly disrupted trade via the Red Sea, forcing many shipping companies to reroute their vessels or suspend operations in the area completely. The attacks pose a significant threat to global supply chains and the global economy, warranting urgent resolution. Yemen's strategic location at the entrance to the Red Sea makes these attacks a global concern, disrupting vital trade routes and exacerbating the humanitarian crisis by hindering aid deliveries. Addressing the root causes of the conflict and prioritizing diplomatic solutions is crucial to preventing further destabilization of the region. Additionally, concerted efforts to uphold maritime security and ensure the free flow of goods through critical waterways are essential to safeguarding global trade and economic stability. The Suez Canal, a vital trade artery between Europe and Asia, faces potential disruption from Houthi attacks in Yemen. Such closures would significantly impact global trade, leading to increased shipping costs and longer delivery times as vessels are forced to circumnavigate Africa. This would drive up prices for consumers worldwide and could exacerbate shortages of essential goods, particularly amid existing supply chain disruptions. Industries reliant on timely imports, such as oil and electronics, could experience production slowdowns, risking economic downturns and job losses in affected regions. Major shipping companies have begun to suspend maritime operations through the Red Sea and Suez Canal due to increased wartime risk insurance premiums and safety concerns affecting the global economy. The closure of Red Sea trade routes to countries like Jordan, Sudan, and Eritrea could further exacerbate instability and economic challenges in these countries. Moreover, a closure of the Suez Canal could disrupt global financial markets, sparking investor panic and volatility. Heightened uncertainty may further undermine economic growth and consumer confidence globally. Additionally, such an event could escalate geopolitical tensions, potentially fueling conflicts in the region. Ensuring the security and uninterrupted operation of critical maritime infrastructure like the Suez Canal is paramount for maintaining global trade and economic stability. The Houthi attacks on maritime infrastructure such as the Suez Canal stem from multifaceted motivations beyond a mere narrative of supporting Gaza. A primary driver is the Houthis' demands for a ceasefire and recognition in the Yemeni conflict. They seek to consolidate power in Yemen and secure acknowledgement of their authority, using attacks on critical infrastructure as leverage in negotiations. The involvement of regional powers and their strategic interests further complicates the situation. Saudi Arabia, leading a coalition supporting the Yemeni government, perceives the Houthis as an Iranian proxy and a direct threat to its security. Conversely, Iran sees Yemen as a means to challenge Saudi dominance in the region. Houthi attacks on maritime infrastructure could disrupt Saudi and coalition interests, serving Iran's broader strategic goals in the Middle East. Moreover, the conflict in Yemen has been marked by proxy warfare, fueled by Iran's support for the Houthis and Saudi Arabia's intervention. This proxy war dimension heightens tensions and prolongs the conflict, exacerbating humanitarian suffering in Yemen and beyond. Houthi attacks on maritime infrastructure can be viewed as part of this broader strategy to assert influence and challenge the regional status quo. The consequences of these attacks extend beyond Yemen's borders, impacting global trade and security. Disruptions in maritime routes like the Suez Canal increase shipping costs and delivery times, affecting industries and consumers worldwide. Moreover, concerns about the escalation of regional conflicts raise geopolitical tensions and pose challenges to international efforts for peace and stability. In summary, the Houthi attacks on maritime infrastructure are driven by complex motivations, including demands for a ceasefire and recognition in the Yemeni conflict, strategic interests of regional powers, and Iran's influence in the proxy war dimension. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for addressing the conflict effectively and promoting peace in the region. The attacks on maritime infrastructure, including the potential closure of vital trade routes like the Suez Canal, could trigger substantial economic repercussions globally. Foremost, disruptions in global trade routes would likely fuel inflation and drive up commodity prices worldwide. As shipping routes are hindered and delivery times lengthen, supply chains would face delays, leading to increased transportation costs. These elevated expenses would inevitably trickle down to consumers, resulting in higher prices for goods and services. Additionally, interruptions in the flow of crucial commodities such as oil, minerals, and agricultural products could intensify inflationary pressures, affecting both developed and developing economies. Developing nations heavily reliant on specific trade routes would be particularly vulnerable to the fallout from attacks on maritime infrastructure. Many of these countries heavily rely on sea-based trade, lacking alternative transportation avenues. Any disruptions to these routes could severely impede their economic progress and development endeavors. Moreover, the increased costs associated with rerouting shipments or sourcing alternative suppliers could strain the financial resources of developing countries, potentially leading to fiscal deficits and mounting debt burdens. Furthermore, the long-term implications for global supply chain resilience and diversification strategies are substantial. These attacks serve as a stark reminder for businesses and policymakers to reassess the vulnerabilities of their supply chains and embrace more resilient strategies. Companies may opt to reduce reliance on specific trade routes and suppliers, instead favoring diversification to mitigate risks linked to potential disruptions. This could entail investments in alternative transportation methods, sourcing from multiple suppliers, or even reshoring production closer to consumer markets. While these diversification efforts may involve higher initial costs, they do hold the promise of enhancing supply chain resilience and minimizing the impact of future disruptions. Finally, the attacks on maritime infrastructure and the potential closure of critical trade routes like the Suez Canal pose significant economic risks on a global scale. From inflationary pressures and soaring commodity prices to vulnerabilities for developing nations reliant on specific trade routes, the consequences could reverberate widely. These events underscore the imperative of bolstering supply chain resilience and implementing diversification strategies to ensure the stability and sustainability of global trade amidst emerging threats. To address the challenges posed by attacks on maritime infrastructure, a comprehensive approach is needed, involving diplomatic efforts, enhanced maritime security measures, and strategic diversification of trade routes and supply chains. Diplomatic efforts are crucial for de-escalating tensions and finding peaceful resolutions to conflicts contributing to maritime instability. In the case of the Houthi conflict in Yemen, international stakeholders should intensify diplomatic initiatives to facilitate dialogue and mediation. This could involve leveraging channels such as the United Nations and regional organizations to encourage negotiations and address underlying grievances. By tackling root causes like political marginalization and economic disparities, lasting peace in conflict-affected regions can be achieved. Strengthening maritime security measures and fostering international cooperation are essential to protect critical trade routes and infrastructure. This includes enhancing surveillance, patrols, and security protocols in vulnerable maritime areas to deter and respond to threats effectively. Collaboration between coastal states, maritime organizations, and navies can improve information sharing and coordination, enabling swift responses to security incidents. Investing in technology and infrastructure for better maritime domain awareness and rapid response capabilities can further enhance security efforts. Exploring alternative trade routes and diversifying supply chains can help mitigate risks associated with disruptions to critical maritime infrastructure. This involves investing in the development of alternative transportation corridors like railways and pipelines to bypass vulnerable maritime checkpoints. Additionally, diversifying sourcing locations and supply chain networks can reduce reliance on specific routes and suppliers, enhancing resilience to disruptions. Collaborative initiatives between governments, businesses, and industry stakeholders can facilitate the identification and implementation of viable alternatives. Moreover, investing in infrastructure and capacity building in regions facing maritime insecurity is crucial. This includes improving port infrastructure, enhancing maritime governance frameworks, and strengthening law enforcement to combat illicit activities such as piracy and smuggling. Addressing socioeconomic and governance challenges contributing to maritime insecurity can promote long-term stability and prosperity in vulnerable regions. Finally, addressing the challenges of attacks on maritime infrastructure requires coordinated efforts. By prioritizing dialogue, cooperation, and resilience-building initiatives, the international community can mitigate risks and safeguard global trade and economic stability. To sum it up, the challenges posed by attacks on maritime infrastructure demand immediate action and collaborative efforts on a global scale. Addressing the root causes of conflicts such as the Yemeni crisis is vital for ensuring long-term stability and prosperity. It's imperative to tackle underlying grievances driving conflicts, like political marginalization and economic inequality. In Yemen, inclusive dialogue and engagement with all stakeholders are essential to forge comprehensive solutions that pave the way for sustainable peace. Promoting peaceful conflict resolution and international cooperation is critical to mitigating risks associated with maritime insecurity. Diplomatic initiatives aimed at de-escalating tensions and fostering dialogue are indispensable. The international community must prioritize diplomacy and multilateralism, leveraging platforms like the United Nations to support peace-building efforts and resolve disputes peacefully. Moreover, building more resilient and sustainable global trade systems is crucial for safeguarding against infrastructure disruptions. This involves investing in infrastructure development, enhancing maritime security, and diversifying trade routes and supply chains. By embracing innovation and collaboration, we can create agile systems better equipped to withstand shocks and ensure the smooth flow of goods and services. Now is the time for governments, businesses, civil society, and international organizations to unite and take decisive action. By addressing the root causes of conflicts, promoting peaceful resolutions, and building resilient trade systems, we can lay the groundwork for a world where prosperity is shared and security is ensured for all. The collective efforts today will shape the trajectory of global peace and prosperity for generations to come. In conclusion, addressing conflicts like the Yemeni crisis is crucial for stability. Diplomatic efforts prioritizing dialogue and trust building are essential to ease tensions. Strengthening maritime security and international cooperation is vital to safeguard critical trade routes. Diversifying these trade routes and supply chains can mitigate risks. Through collaborative action and resilience building, we can navigate challenges and pave the way for peace and prosperity. It's imperative for all stakeholders to work together towards comprehensive solutions that address root causes, promote dialogue, and build resilient trade systems. By that, we've reached the end of today's video, and if you've enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos.